Picture this. Someone walks out of your life with a triumphant smile, convinced you'll crumble without them. They slam the door shut, turn their back and walk away, thinking they've won. In their eyes, you're nothing more than a puppet whose strings have just been cut. But what they never expected, what they didn't even dare to imagine, is that the very moment they left became the turning point of your life. They believed you would chase them, beg, cry, do anything to hold on. Instead of collapsing, though, you stood up. Instead of despairing, you chose silence. And in that silence, you began to rediscover yourself. This is the paradox that makes narcissists regret. They thought abandoning you would prove their power, but in reality, that was the moment their power began to fade, because for the first time, you were no longer distracted by their manipulation, no longer trapped in the cycle of blame, guilt, and control. You stood on the threshold of something completely new, freedom. At first, the narcissist might feel ecstatic. They may even flaunt their so-called new life, a new partner, new friends, staged photos of fake happiness, but it's all just theater. They want you to believe you lost a rare jewel that can't be replaced. The truth is the opposite. They're the ones who lost the most precious thing, a soul capable of genuine love. While they obsess over their performance and hunt for attention, you're learning something they'll never understand: self-respect. You slowly reclaim your strength, your independence, and your inner peace. You begin to heal. And once you heal, you become someone they can no longer control. For a narcissist, losing control is their deepest fear. Their regret doesn't hit them all at once. It creeps in slowly, like darkness settling in. They notice you don't call anymore. You don't post vague updates hoping they'll notice. You don't react. And then, your silence echoes louder than any words ever could. What they never expected is this: not only did you survive without them, you started to shine brighter than ever. And that's the moment true regret eats away at them. Not because of love, but because their fragile ego can't bear the reality that you're better off without them. In this video, we'll explore why narcissists regret losing you, even when they're the ones who chose to leave. You'll see how your silence becomes their nightmare, how your healing exposes their emptiness, and how your freedom is the one thing they never thought you'd claim. Part 1. The sweet trap at the beginning. When you look back at the early days, you may ask yourself, why did I fall into this whirlwind? Why didn't I see the warning signs from the start? The answer is simple. A narcissist doesn't enter your life with truth. They enter with a perfect mask. They show up like a dream, like the soulmate you've always been searching for. They know exactly what makes your heart race, what makes you trust. They study you down to the smallest details, your likes, your fears, your hidden desires, and then turn all of it into weapons. This is when the tactic of love bombing appears. They shower you with endless compliments, call you their perfect half, and promise you a future filled with happiness. You feel as if you've found destiny itself, a once-in-a-lifetime love. Constant messages, never-ending calls, and sweet whispers make you believe they really do love me. But real love never comes that fast, never hits you that hard. What you're receiving isn't love, it's control, disguised as romance. They want you infatuated, addicted, willing to hand over your entire heart and trust as quickly as possible. Why the rush? Because they know that mask can't last forever. They know the truth will eventually show. The selfishness, the emptiness, the inability to truly love. So they have to bind you before that happens. They need you attached deeply enough that when the mask finally slips, it's already too hard for you to walk away. And before you realize it, you start adjusting yourself to fit them. You're willing to sacrifice your time, money, energy, even your health to keep this love alive. Every time something feels off, you tell yourself, everyone has weak moments. I should be understanding. Every time you get hurt, you convince yourself they're just stressed. they still love me. But in reality, it's nothing more than a sweet trap. Once you're caught, the narcissist begins to test you, stirring up small conflicts to measure your patience, making unreasonable demands to see how far you'll bend. And if you comply, they push further and further, each demand harsher than the last. What satisfies them isn't the love you give, it's the power they feel when they see you endure pain just to keep them close. In their eyes, the more you tolerate, the more you forgive, the more valuable you become as supply, something to drain without a shred of gratitude. You see the paradox? A narcissist may be the one to leave, but in reality, they plant the seeds of regret from the very beginning, because the more they manipulate you, the more convinced they are that you'll never leave. The more they build up a false love, the more they trick themselves into believing you can't live without them. But then, the moment they walk away, the moment they think they've won, the truth finally comes out. That sweet trap only works as long as you believe in it. Once you wake up, once you go silent, once you rise to your feet, all of their power disappears. And that is the beginning of a regret they can never escape. Part 2. When you don't collapse the way they expected. In the narcissist's mind, the script after they leave is always crystal clear. You'll cry, you'll suffer, you'll beg them to come back. You'll become living proof of their power, feeding their illusion that they're the center of your universe. But they think you'll break. They think you'll despair. They think you won't be able to go on without them. But then, something they never saw coming happens. You don't collapse the way they imagined. Instead, you choose silence. No begging, no explaining, no chasing. You stand still, watch, and let them walk away, without a single attempt to pull them back. For you, silence might just be self-defense, a way to hold on to your inner peace. But for the narcissist, that silence is nothing short of a nightmare. It's the ultimate rejection, because it strips away the one thing they crave more than love itself, your attention and your reaction. What you don't realize is that deep down, they're addicted to your reactions. Every time you cry, every time you rage, every time you try to prove your innocence, it all feeds their twisted ego. It makes them feel important, powerful, in control. But when you stop, when you no longer give them that energy, panic sets in. At first they'll test you. They'll send a probing text, "Are you okay?" They'll drop breadcrumbs, a like on social media, a missed call, a cryptic message. They're fishing, trying to see if you'll react. And when you stay silent, the fear inside them grows. They start to wonder, do they really not need me anymore? Have I actually lost my grip? This is the very first moment regret creeps into their mind. Not the regret of a loving heart, but the anxiety of an ego that can't tolerate defeat. Meanwhile, you begin to find yourself again. Your mornings are no longer heavy with arguments, your days no longer filled with the constant worry of keeping them pleased. You take a deep breath and realize life without them feels strangely peaceful. You turn inward. You focus on your work, your passions, your healthy relationships. You laugh more, sleep better, and start to see the light that had long been hidden under the shadow of their manipulation. This change shocks the narcissist. They never imagined that their absence wouldn't destroy you, but would actually allow you to bloom. And that's something they can't stand. Because deep down, narcissists don't just want you to suffer when they leave, they want you to never be happy without them. When they see you not just surviving, but thriving, that illusion shatters. And when it shatters, the shadow of regret begins to cover them completely. Remember this, your silence is not weakness, it's your strongest declaration. It says, I will no longer let you control me. I will no longer let you drain my energy. I am free. And the very moment you rise without them, the moment you choose silence instead of clinging, you do the one thing they never believed you dare to do. You break the script they wrote for you. And from that moment on, their regret is only just beginning. Part 3. The moment regret begins. A narcissist's regret doesn't hit all at once. At first, when they walk away, they are overflowing with confidence, convinced they've won. They think, just wait, they won't survive without me. They'll come running, begging, and I'll have absolute power again. But as time passes, what they see is the exact opposite. You don't collapse. You don't beg. You don't chase. Instead, you grow calmer, freer. You start focusing on your work, giving time back to yourself, rediscovering joy in the small things you once neglected. You spend mornings exercising instead of drowning in stress. You laugh more when you're with friends, and you begin to love yourself instead of living just to please someone else. And this is when something unfamiliar creeps into the narcissist's heart. Emptiness. They're used to your reactions, your tears, your anger, your frantic attempts to prove yourself every time they left. They needed those reactions to feed their twisted ego. But now, instead of that gratification, they're met with silence. So they reach for their old tricks. A short text like, "How are you?" A little breadcrumb on social media, even accidentally showing up where you usually go. But when everything they try is met with silence, panic sets in. Their mind begins to race with questions. Hi, aren't they reacting? Have they found someone else? Or have they finally realized I was never worth it? And this is when true regret begins to seep in. But narcissistic regret is not like normal regret. A normal person regrets losing love, regrets not cherishing it. The narcissist is different. They don't regret losing you because they loved you. They regret losing control. You were once their supply, their source of energy, attention, and ego validation. Now that supply has run dry, and as they watch you grow stronger and happier, their fear only deepens. They're forced to face a truth they were never prepared for. You can live better without them. That regret often shows up in two ways. Silent obsession. As they stalk from the shadows, checking your social media, asking mutual friends about you. Every smile, every sign of your happiness feels like a dagger to their pride. Attempts to return. They may try hoovering, coming back with sweet words, fake apologies, or empty promises to change. But beneath it all, the goal is the same: to claw back the control they lost. In a narcissist's eyes, your happiness without them is the ultimate humiliation. And so their regret isn't awakening, it's torment, the torment of failure. You may not realize it, but your silence and calmness have become a mirror reflecting their emptiness. It forces them to see clearly that no matter how strong they pretended to be, they depended on you far more than they ever admitted. From here, their regret is no longer fleeting, it becomes a festering wound, a bitter truth they can't swallow. They never imagined that one day, the very person they once belittled, once manipulated, would be the one to strip them of their illusion of invincibility. Part 4. The truth they'll never admit. When regret begins to gnaw at them, the narcissist will do everything in their power to hide it. They never want to admit they've lost something important, much less confess that they were the one in the wrong. For their twisted ego, admitting fault equals failure, and failure is something they cannot bear. So they may reappear with sweet words, apologies that sound sincere. "I've been thinking a lot. I realize you're the only one who truly understands me. You're the love I'll never find again in this lifetime. I regret ever walking away from you." But be careful, these words are not a confession of real love, they're just another strategy to regain control. The truth is, narcissists don't regret losing you, they regret losing the ability to manipulate you. They don't mourn genuine love, because they've never known what love truly is. What they mourn is the supply that once fed their inflated ego. Your attention, your reactions, your compliance. Face this truth. If one day they come back, it won't be because they miss you. It will be because they miss the feeling of controlling you. They don't long for the beautiful memories, they long for the power they once held. And here lies the crucial difference between the regret of a heart that knows love and the regret of a narcissist. A loving heart regrets not cherishing what it had and seeks to change to become better. A narcissist regrets only losing a resource that once reinforced their power, and given the chance, they'll repeat the same cycle all over again. This is the truth they'll never dare to admit, because admitting it means accepting that you were more important than their ego, and that is something they will never allow. Instead, they'll choose to blame. They may tell others you were too weak, too sensitive, too difficult. They'll craft a story where they're the victim and you're the cruel one. They might even try to smear your reputation, anything to protect their fragile mask. But deep inside they know the truth. They've lost you forever. And that is a loss no mask can cover. They may pretend to be happy, they may flaunt a new relationship, but in the long, silent nights, they can't stop themselves from thinking about you, the one who dared to walk away, the one who proved they could live well without them. What they'll never say out loud is this: the moment you stood tall in silence, you forced them to confront their own powerlessness. You no longer saw them as the center of your universe, and for a narcissist, that is the bitterest defeat. They will never admit this to you. They will never bow their head and accept fault, but in their heart they know losing you was not just losing a partner. It was losing the mirror that once reflected their full sense of power. And when that mirror shattered, they were left face to face with the naked truth. They are empty, and they have no one left to control. Part 5. The lesson for you. In the end, the most important truth you must remember is this: a narcissist's regret never comes from genuine love. It comes from the loss of power, from their fragile ego being challenged, from no longer being able to control you the way they once did. And that's why your task is not to go back to prove your worth, but to keep walking forward on the path of freedom and self-respect. You once gave everything: your time, your love, your energy, even your peace of mind. You once sacrificed too much to hold on to a relationship that was nothing more than an illusion. But the moment you chose silence, the moment you drew boundaries, the moment you decided you would no longer be manipulated, you stepped out of that toxic cycle. And that was the real victory. The first lesson: silence is also a form of strength. You don't need to argue, you don't need to prove, you don't need to shout to be seen. The very act of pulling back, of reclaiming your energy for yourself, restores your power over your own life. Your silence is a shield, a declaration that says, I am no longer a puppet in your game. The second lesson: happiness is not in someone else's hands, it's in your inner freedom. Inside a toxic relationship, it's easy to believe that as long as you kept them happy, as long as you held on to them, then you could be happy too. But the truth is, happiness only comes when you dare to put yourself first. When you begin to give love to yourself, you finally see clearly you never needed them to survive. It was they who needed you to fuel their illusion of power. The third lesson: never let false regret fool you. There will be moments when they return, armed with promises of change, with tears, even with sweet apologies. But remember, their regret is not the regret of a heart that knows love. It's just another tactic to reopen the door you've already closed. And if you let them back in, the same destructive cycle will repeat all over again. The most beautiful thing you can do is not revenge, not proving you're better, but living a radiant life, full of freedom and peace. Let your silence itself be the proof that you've moved on. Let your joy, your laughter, and your serenity become the undeniable evidence that they lost something precious and will never get it back. Finally, remind yourself, you are not a supporting character in their story. You are the author of your own life, the main character of the film you're writing every single day. The narcissist may regret, they may obsess, they may try every way to come back, but none of that matters anymore because you've chosen your own path, the path of dignity, freedom, and happiness. And as you walk it with confidence and calm, never forget, the sweetest revenge is not making them suffer, it's proving you're happy without them.